Welcome back to the SportsMax Zone. On Sunday, the unpredictable West Indies registered a 4-wicket victory over England in the first test at the Ageas Bowl in Southampton. Set a target of 200 to win. The Windies found themselves in early strife and at one point were 27 for 3. Now, the Jamaican Blackwood answered questions about his temperament at the top level with a match-winning 95 as the Windies reached their target with 4 wickets to spare. The strapping Trinidadian pacer Gabriel was named man of the match for his figures of 9 for 103. For England, there appears some soul-searching to do now as they were comfortably second best in Southampton. Stand-in skipper Ben Stokes has faced some tough questions, including the reason behind his decision to bat first. Other issues include the controversial omission of Stuart Broad from the 11 and the perseverance with out-of-sorts Joe Denley. Now, the West Indies captain Jason Holder spoke with reporters after his team's victory. Here's what he had to say.
To beat England in England is no easy feat. Again, we were able to do it last time we were here in 2017. So we all know what the feeling feels like. But again, things have changed drastically since then. And they're a massive, massive unit in their backyard. So to start the series as well is very, very promising for us. And we feel very proud with the way we've performed. But credit to England, man. They threw a lot at us. Stokes, Anderson, Jofra, Mark, they all put in a hell of an effort, and they were all challenging. So we knew it wasn't going to be easy. We weren't quite sure how the wicket would have held up, but the heavy roller quite worked for us. This morning, I don't think England rolled the wicket, so they probably felt as though the heavy wicket would have probably kept the wicket together. So, we decided to put the heavy roller on it, and, that I did.
6 feet 7 inches. Jason Holder standing tall in the first test. The stand-in captain for England, Ben Stokes, reflected on England's loss.
I think we better look back on that, particularly as a batting unit, and understand that when we get into positions like we did in the first innings and our second innings batting, that we need to be really ruthless, and understanding that when we're on top to not give it back to the opposition, regardless of who that is. If we had another 60, 80 runs to play with today, obviously it would have been a different game, and we had opportunities to do that in both innings when we had the bat in our hands. So, look, we'll be able to take a lot of learning from it, but you try and take some positives from it, and it's a great learning curve for us as a batting group. Yet again, it's the same messages that we keep saying to each other. It's obviously we base our test match cricket about getting big first innings runs, but positives from it is we've got a young lad in Zach Crawley who came out and showed the potential of someone who could be around for a long time. I think we better look back on that, particularly as a batting unit, and understand that when we get into positions like we did in the first innings and our second innings batting, that we need to be really ruthless, and understanding that when we're on top to not give it back to the.
Joining us now to review the first test is our English-based correspondent, David Brooke. David, welcome. Have you recovered from that loss?
I'm still celebrating it, Mariah.
Oh, so you're on the West Indies side?
Of course.
I'm just clearing the air, and I'm joking, obviously. So coming out of the match, we saw so many positives, David, so much so that, many people were arguing as to who should have gotten the Man of the Match award because people felt, Jermaine Blackwood was the game changer. What did you think about Windies' overall performance?
Great performance. They played with great character and skill. And there were certainly 3 huge contenders for that Man of the Match award, and it can only go to one of them. And I don't think that Jason Holder or Shannon Gabriel will mind missing out on it, given that what the result. Jermaine Blackwood would mind missing out on it. And I'm pleased that Shannon Gabriel got it because he got 9 wickets in the match and got some crucial wickets as well. So no, fantastic team performance from West Indies, yet again underestimated by the English media and the bookmakers. You could have backed West Indies to win this all the way through until even when they needed 50 runs to win, they were barely the favourites. So all the betting money was going on England. Underestimated again. We saw it in Bridgetown last year, January in 2019, and it's happened again. 1-0 to West Indies after one test.
Definitely. David, did you ever, at any point throughout the match, feel like it was slipping away from the West Indies?
Of course. You know, you're always on a bit of a roller coaster with the West Indies. Makes them always a very entertaining side to watch. Nothing's ever predictable. Not like Australia when they, you know, occasionally when Australia had that golden run. But no, West Indies of late have been a bit unpredictable. But, you know, and there's obviously speculation about the batting frailties. And when they went 3 wickets down with John Campbell off injured, all those wickets to Jofra Archer, incidentally, Tino, if you're listening. You know, when they went 3 down with 1 in the pavilion, I think a lot of people, I could see a lot of people in the Caribbean were giving up on the West Indies. But I was thinking, well, actually, you know, the runs have come from lower order, haven't they? 5, 6, 7, 8 tends to be the positions. You know, Holder and Brathwaite, as we discussed earlier, before the match, Holder and Dowrich have got the 2 best averages in that team, and Chase not far behind them. So, you know, with that lower middle order there, but I suppose the surprise package was the performance of Jermaine Blackwood, and it's great testimony to the guy who's fought his way back into this team by weight of runs in first-class cricket, playing for Jamaica. And there are those, including Andy Roberts and other notable legends, who've said, domestic first-class cricket in West Indies is not worth anything anymore. Well, Jermaine Blackwood has shown that putting in the hours and putting in the work and scoring all those runs for Jamaica does mean something. He's been given this opportunity, he's earned it, and all credit to him. I'd love him to have scored a century, but he won't mind about that. 95 great runs of fantastic innings from Blackwood.
David, you just highlighted, the contribution of the lower batting order. This brings me to my next question. Shai Hope, scores of 16 and 9. Does he, is his place now in question? What say you?
Well, it certainly is in question, isn't it? From everyone, all West Indies fans are questioning. I would leave him be. He's been there and done it in England. He's played a lot of cricket in England. I know he's on a terrible run in terms of, he hasn't scored a Test match century since that one at Headingley in 2017. But he scored a lot of runs in one-day cricket. West Indies haven't played that much Test cricket in the interim. So I would leave him there. I know he's got to come to the party. There are 1 or 2 technical, things that people have been picking up on. But at the end of the day, he's been here and done it in England. He scored 3 centuries or whatever, 2 centuries on his last tour, 2 in the same match, wasn't it, at Headingley? I know you can't dine out off past glories, but with Shai Hope, I'd be inclined to continue with him. I think to take him out and bring Cornwall in, which is probably what the move that some people would like to see, I would hold back from doing that. I'd be very tempted to go in with an unchanged team.
Yes.
If you've got a winning team, very tempted to keep it unchanged for Old Trafford on Thursday.
Yeah, David, I think it would be very unlikely for them to change the first test setup there. But another word on Jermaine Blackwood, because he was very, very highly praised at the post-match press conference by his captain, who also spoke glowingly as well about Shannon Gabriel's effort. But talk to us about his body language and how he felt after the victory yesterday, because it's reasonable to think that if Darren Bravo and Shimron Hetmyer hadn't pulled out of this tour, he would not have played.
Absolutely. I don't think anyone would have put him in the touring party. You might not even made the 15. And, well, what I loved about his innings was that he was up for the fight. Jofra Archer produced a very hostile spell and was definitely, getting ascendancy over the West Indies batsman. He produced a lot of very quick, short deliveries. And Jermaine Blackwood showed great agility, great courage as well. He got out of the way of trouble. He was agile. He moved around and got out, like a boxer. You could see him almost dancing around and he was up for the battle. Maybe that mistake he'd made in the first innings had focused his mind, because obviously that drew some criticism. But no, it was a wonderful innings. It was a mixture of solid defence and great shots. I mean, all credit to Roston Chase as well, one of the unsung heroes, 47 and 37. And it was stubbornness in both innings. Roston Chase was the one who sort of began to change the momentum with Blackwood. But the advantage of having an attacking player like Blackwood in the top order is if he stays in, he scores runs. And wasn't just about pitch occupation, wasn't just about occupation of the crease, he had to score runs. I was also comforted, Lance, by the fact that West Indies, statistically, have never lost a run chase of 200 or less. So, and they weren't about to lose it this time as well. Even Jason Holder there at the end with runs in hand. So, no, a wonderful performance by Jermaine Blackwood. All credit to him for fighting his way back into Test match cricket.
Yeah, David, you were pretty profound with your Caribbean affiliation when Mariah just now spoke of you being an Englishman, but I know you are an Englishman and you're pretty close to them. Can you give us a sense of the sort of pressure that Ben Stokes is under at the moment? Because there were a few decisions in this Test match, including winning the toss and deciding to bat, and also the omission of Stuart Broad. A lot has been said about that, and Ben Stokes has taken responsibility.
Yeah, I think Ben Stokes had a lot to do with that. I think the captain gets the team that he wants at the end of the day, and I think he had a lot to do with that decision to omit Stuart Broad. Ultimately, the pressure that Stokes is under is going to be eased because he's only had that captaincy for the one-off game. So he hasn't got to take that pressure into the next game. If anything, he can be relieved of those responsibilities. He's probably thinking, captaincy is a bit more difficult than I thought. He's got great leadership qualities, but the fact that he's never captained a team in a professional match surely would have been some handicap, when you're playing a tactical battle. I thought Jason Holder outthought Ben Stokes on a number of occasions. I thought that Jason Holder won the tactical battle, and that Ben Stokes, he's given Ben Stokes a lot to think about. It's interesting in the press conference afterwards, Ben Stokes talked about it's a learning curve for some of our young batsmen. And hearing him say that, it's always a bit of a last refuge, isn't it, when you talk about the youth of your team. And it's interesting that Ben Stokes had to resort to that to explain away England's defeat.
Having said that, do you think Stuart Broad will play at Old Trafford next Thursday?
I think it's almost certain that he will play. When Ben Stokes was asked to comment on the Stuart Broad outburst that we spoke about on Friday, Ben Stokes immediately said, I admired what Stuart Broad said, and I'm glad that he said it. So he spoke in the manner of someone that would welcome him back into the team. I think it would be a very big call to leave him out, especially that Mark Wood, probably, just had a couple of wickets in the match, didn't look particularly threatening. Although the Old Trafford wicket will be faster wicket than the Ageas bowl in Southampton, I think it would be very brave to leave Stuart Broad out again. I think he will play, and Mark Wood will be left out.
So, David, again, a lot of media comments coming out saying that, Jofra Archer does not bowl at top speed. The former England captain, Michael Vaughan, he came out and he said those who are saying that, they're out of order and he would pick him in his team any time. What did you think about Jofra's performance?
I thought it was a great performance from Jofra Archer in the second innings. I know that Tino was quite critical of him and on Twitter, but I think Jofra responded in perfect manner on the field with a fantastic spell. You see, I think it's wrong of Tino just to focus on Jofra's pace and speed as though it was all about the speed gun. Jofra Archer is a bowler of great skill. He swings the ball, moves the ball, he can bowl that nagging length, a bit like Courtney Walsh used to bowl. I mean, he took a lot of wickets in first-class cricket before coming into the England team. Of course, when he had that standout performance against Australia last summer, people focused on his speed. He hit Steve Smith on the head. But he's more than just a speed bowler. He has got variations and different modes of bowling, and I don't think it's fair to judge him on the speed gun. Well, he responded to his critics. I thought he had a fantastic spell of bowling, and he put England into a winning position, but it was that strength of West Indies' middle order and lower middle order that again saved the day.
All right, David. Well, thank you so much for chatting with us. We will continue as we continue our, journey towards the victory. And of course, I know we'll be in contact with you. So thank you again.
Thanks very much, Mariah. Thank you, Lance.
You're welcome. Of course, David Brooke, our English-based cricket correspondent there, keeping us updated on all the action taking place. So, Lance, David gave us some, again, David is so excited about the West Indies, and it just adds to my confidence. Yeah. But, Carlos Brathwaite said something in an interview. He said he sees West Indies going to the #1 test spot based on the performance and based on the unit. He says the only thing that can stop this team from, achieving that milestone is their inconsistent batting. Do you agree with him? Because I definitely do.
To the #1 spot? If they'll get to the #1 spot in the rankings?
Eventually, with this young group.
That part of it is hard for me to comment on because that's a long way away. They are currently 8. But, the zone has looked at this West Indies test team for the past year and a half or 2, and we have spoken of a level of application and diligence and determination in this group, and I can't say that I'm surprised by the level of improvement that they are showing. And if they continue to show the improvement, obviously they will rebound to a level that they are now a team to be respected and not a team that people overlook and constantly underestimate. David Brooks said it at least twice just now, that they were underestimated by the English in the Caribbean last year. They were underestimated by the English in this very test match, he thought. And if the team continues this kind of performance, it is clear that other teams will have to stand up and take note of them and not look past them.
And just to say, take note, over the weekend, all these top players like Virat Kohli and whatnot were just calling out West Indies and commending them on their good performance.
Yeah. As we go to a break, a reminder to catch a special edition of Line and Length this Monday, 7:30 p.m., 8:30 Eastern Caribbean time. Barry Wilkinson reminiscing on the late Sir Everton de Courcy weeks.
And from that day I remember Everton very much so, because after a while we got very close together, and he was the first person to call me soapbox.
The Right Excellence Garfield Sobers leads off the program remembering Sir Everton Weeks, a tribute to the cricketing icon who died at the age of 95 on July 1st. Join Line and Length for a regional broadcast this Monday at 7:30 p.m. Jamaica time, 8:30 Eastern Caribbean, with other tributes from Sir Gordon Greenidge, Sir Everton's son David Murray, Professor Sir Hilary Beckles, from India Sunil Gavaskar, and other leading individuals whose lives he impacted. Remembering Sir Everton Weeks, this Monday at 7:30 Jamaica time, 8:30 p.m. Eastern Caribbean time on SportsMax.
We're back on the SportsMax zone. We continue to review the first test match between hosts England and the West Indies and discuss the performance of key performers of Jason Holder's men in Southampton. The 28-year-old Jamaican Jermaine Blackwood was the subject of a lot of criticism after gifting his wicket to the Englishmen for 12 of just 22 balls in the first innings. Now, he was condemned by some social media users for lacking the maturity to bat judiciously at the test level, but those same critics were toasting Blackwood on Sunday's final day as his 95 of 154 balls ground England into submission. And we want to get Fazir's take on what happened over the weekend as well. We're standing by to join him. But you know, Blackwood has a pretty solid record against England. He averages 55 against England in 7 test matches against them, 7 test appearances against them. And I think inside he may feel, or he may have gone into this test assignment with some level of confidence, even though we accept that if, as I said with David on just now, if Shimron Hetmar and Darren Bravo hadn't declined to go on this tour, he probably or most likely would not have been in this test team.
Yes, Lance, and I want to address the first part in the leading where you said, many people felt like he wouldn't have performed, especially in the manner in which he did. And I think it's valid to the point that, most of his runs came in at the championship level. And, everybody would, despite having a good record against England, first of all, it's a different England team, people would be critical and, not expect somebody batting at that number to have to come at that point and change the game. So I think what Blackwood did is he showed us what he has in him and, he cements his spot. I think, that's convincing enough because initially nobody would have thought that Blackwood would come here and do what he did, change the game, especially because of the top order lands. We have a solid top order and nobody expects the top order to fail at that, like the amount it did, especially where Shai Hope is concerned, John Campbell too. Yeah,
well, the top order has been struggling for a while and they weren't able to turn things around in this particular test match. But Michael Holding said repeatedly during the commentary that Jermaine Blackwood needs to understand his role at the international level because it is typical of him. He's a shot maker and it is accepted that that is the way he's most comfortable playing. But Michael Holding was making the point that at this level of cricket, sometimes it's not about what you are most comfortable doing, but what is required of you in the given situation. And I think Blackwood has recognized that as well.
Definitely.
In the past few months leading up to this series, I saw him talking with local media in Jamaica, and he spoke about how much hours he had been putting in, or how many hours he had been putting in to dedicate himself to playing longer innings and not just giving his hand away as easily as he would have in the past. Now, when we saw his dismissal in the first innings, Mariah, the general feeling was, here we go again. What about the rhetoric about, I'm a lot more committed now. I want to ensure that I apply myself and spend longer hours at the crease. So the way he came back in the second innings, albeit not a flawless 95, it has to be said.
A lot of drop catches.
But the sort of determination he showed, I think he has to take a lot of credit for how this game has turned out, because were it not for his 95, the West Indies would not have won this match. Fazir now joins us. Fazir, we want to look very quickly as we welcome you to the show, the performances of some of the key men in this test match for the West Indies, Gabriel, Blackwood, and of course the skipper himself. I will start by asking, how surprising was Jermaine Blackwood's effort from your eyes?
Not surprising in the way that he played, but surprising that he was able to last so long to get to 95. And again, it's impressive that he's worked hard to try to temper that, that aggressive style and that tendency to play the occasional rash shot, especially down to third man. But at the end of it all, it worked for him. It probably won't work every time, because I think every time you bowl to Jermaine Blackwood, you think you're going to get him out, because that's the way he plays. It worked for him in the second innings, didn't work in the first, and I think he's going to have to work even harder to tighten up his game, because still there's always that, excuse me, I don't know where that cough is coming from. There's always that likelihood that the way, again, that he plays, he could give it away cheaply or at some point during the innings, but still, it was a fantastic effort yesterday.
Yeah, all right, we'll give you a couple of seconds, Faz, to get yourself some water as Mariah prepares to put you on the spotlight, because as I said before we went on to Fazir, Mariah, when he got out in the first innings, the general feeling was, here we go again, because we know how he plays, we know what his natural game is, or his natural tendency is. And he gave his hand away in the first innings when we needed him to bat and secure the innings for the West Indies.
And you have to remember, even when they were picking the team, many people didn't consider Blackwood to be a part of the team. They had other plans. So even seeing him in the team was a surprise to the critics and the experts of cricket. So Faz, my question to you, of course, an all-round effort. Shai Hope, though, 16 and 9. I asked this to David and now I pose the question to you. Would you change that winning team?
I suppose the only contemplation would be whether John Campbell is fit, because remember he was hit on the toe and he had to retire hurt, or whether that would be a question mark and maybe someone might have to be considered to come in either top of the order, or whether you promote Shai and let someone else come into the middle order. But that apart, unless it's a raging Turner at Old Trafford, I really don't see any reason to change unless one of the fast bowlers pulls up lame and they've got to look at the other opportunities in the squad to get in the team. So I really don't see any changes other than injury to John Campbell and whether or not it is the sort of surface that mandates a second spinner.
Faz, with Joe Root coming back for his spot to lead his team, and of course we may very well see the inclusion of Stuart Broad. Does this change the dynamic of which the West Indies team has been playing? Do they have to do anything differently? What do you think?
Let's put it in context. When Stuart Broad was left out of the first test in the Wisden series, last year in the Caribbean, West Indies won by over 300 runs. He played in the next match and they lost by 10 wickets, England that is. So it doesn't necessarily mean bringing Stuart Broad back in the side is automatically going to turn England into winners. When the West Indies chased down 322 to defeat England at Headingley, Joe Root was the captain and he made the declaration. The issue is, and I think this is the point, that England continue to underestimate the West Indies at their cost. And I don't understand why, because England have won only one test series in the West Indies in the last 51 years. They've lost to the West Indies at the start of this series for the first time in 20 years. This loss is their 29th test match defeat over the last 5 years. England lose regularly. They're an ordinary team. They're not as bad as the West Indies. Let's not get carried away with ourselves. But they are an ordinary team. The reason people are so fixated with England, one, because of the Ashes, which they hold as preeminent, and two, because their media dominates the game. So everything is about England. Just for example, today on ESPN Cricket Info, the question is asked, who is Jermaine Blackwood? I mean, what more nonsensical question is that? The same Blackwood scored 185 against England in 2015.
Yes.
But again, the fact that the question is being asked once more just goes to show how one-sided and narrow-minded the international media are about cricketers outside of Australia, England, and India. So it's almost as if you have to keep proving yourself time and time again. The fact is West Indies have nothing to prove. They've shown that they've got the measure of England. They may still lose the series 2-1, you never know. But they've shown that by their performance in this test match that they can compete with England.
Faz, a quick word on Shannon Gabriel, because he came into this tour with question marks because he had that ankle surgery and he was initially in the reserve list because there was the need for him to show that he was match ready or international cricket ready. We know how jarring on the ankle fast bowling is, so question marks for him coming in. Oh, how satisfied would he be with his 9-wicket haul and man of the match honour?
Incredibly satisfied because you'll have to remember again, when the West Indies came on the last tour of England in 2017, it was on the heels of that why did he do that in Dominica, that shot to Yasir Shah. And gradually, by sheer dint of hard work and determination, remember those 13 wickets against Sri Lanka in St. Lucia on a flat pitch in 2018. And then he wasn't even part of the test squad originally. And of course, he impressed coach Phil Simmons so much. And let's not take anything away as well from Simmons' role in molding this unit together over the last 4 weeks, and he's played his part. But enormous credit to Shannon Gabriel. I mean, when you watch Gabriel bowling, and when they do the super slow-mo, at the point where he plants that left foot, you just wonder, why isn't he hobbling off and limping off after every over? Because he's a huge man. The pressure he puts on that left leg from the hip to the knee to all the other joints that are associated with that part of the body. You just have to be impressed by his work ethic, the fact that he continues to charge in when his captain hands him the ball, and he's fully deserving of the reward and the man of the match accolade that he got for this test match.
Yeah, and the other thing about this West Indies four-pronged attack that they went in was, and Jason Holder spoke about it, the fact that in tandem, they created a lot of pressure, constant pressure, even though, like Kemar Roach didn't take any wickets, but he was economical, and based on his consistency and line and length, didn't allow the England batsmen to get comfortable. So it allowed, the wicket takers, himself, Holder, and Shannon Gabriel to flourish in this match.
And it even allowed Roston Chase to pick up a couple of wickets, which again is really why it's a team that is moving in the right direction. As I said, England could very well bounce back. They could really cut out all the mistakes and not put down the chances and problems with no balls and so on, and win the next 2 test matches in Manchester. But that would not take away from the West Indies' forward progress. We'd certainly like to see them win the series. Winning the next test match means they retain the Wisden Trophy. If they don't lose, they retain the Wisden Trophy. And that's a tremendous effort in England, given the fact that this is the first time in 20 years that the West Indies are 1-0 up in a test series in England. Then they lost 3-1 to surrender the Wisden Trophy. But to answer your specific question, as you said, who would have thought Kemar Roach would not have taken a single wicket, yet the West Indies win the test match? And it goes to show that this team is a sum of its parts. Jason Holder, question marks over whether he would have even played, whether or not he was nursing an injury. He gets 6 for 42. Shannon Gabriel gets 9 in the match. Alzari Joseph gets 2 vital wickets in the England second innings with the second new ball, just as they are looking to push towards a lead, maybe closer towards 300 rather than 200. And that is the essence of test match cricket, where if you keep on trying, if you keep on putting in that effort, at some point, the reward is going to come your way that is going to make the difference, and that's what happened for the West Indies.
Faz, I have to agree with you there on that sum of its whole parts, because, what stood out for me and what was really heartwarming is the fact that we didn't have to discuss one person alone changing the game. There were so many standout performers. Shane Dowrich, 61, and of course the 20 in the second innings. How impressed were you with his performance?
Well, Dowrich has been impressing for the last 2 years. It's a stat that we've overlooked, and it's only because it was pointed out to me that Shane Dowrich has the highest average of wicketkeeper batsmen in Test cricket over the last couple of years. He averages over 40 during that period. So getting a 61 and playing his part is almost par for the course. And I think that is where these players are growing. Remember, in 2017, he averaged under 5 in that Test series in England, and he struggled desperately. Well, he is growing as an individual, and this is what is so important. Yes, you will have like a Jermaine Blackwood, someone who is likely to get out anytime, but if he gets going, he can win the match for you, as he did yesterday. Let's not forget Craig Brathwaite getting 65 in the first innings when he had a terrible run over the last 7 or 8 test matches. So at the end of the day, it is about players rising to the occasion. Someone like Shai Hope, he's long overdue. His average is dipping towards 26 now. For someone who was seen as the new batting star of the West Indies when we were last in England in 2017. So he is due some runs. So everyone has to recognize that they can't sit on their laurels. Yes, they'll enjoy the victory, but the next test match starting on Thursday morning, everybody starts at 0. As Rohan Kanhai, West Indies coach, famously said to Brian Lara when he was dismissed for 277 after his first test match 100 in Australia in 1993, the New Year's test in Sydney, he reminded Lara, your next innings starts at 0. In the same way, the next test match starts with both teams at 0. And it's really up to the West Indies to live up to what we've seen in the first test.
Yeah, Faz, a little known fact before you go, because Jason Holder is a unique cricketer. The stats now show that he is the 4th most successful West Indies captain all time by way of test matches won, behind Lloyd, Richards and Richardson. I saw a report from Sachin Tendulkar saying that he's the most underrated all-rounder in the world. Now, he's the #1 all-rounder in the world, says the ICC. How do you compute that?
Because hardly anybody will tell you that Jason Holder is deserving of #1. They'll find all sorts of different things to say, Lance, as to why he really should not be in that position, which is totally unfair. And I think that's the point Sachin Tendulkar is making, that even when he does well, even when he performs with the bat, even when he gets wickets, people seem inclined to say, well, he was lucky. Things went his way. But at the end of the day, I think it's a golfer, the South African golfer said, it's interesting you say I'm lucky after he won some major tournament with a lucky putt or whatever. You see, the harder I practice, the luckier I get. And it speaks to the work ethic of not just a Jason Holder, but a lot of these players. They're working hard. And even if there's a reluctance to acknowledge it, you're still hearing that discussion around the Caribbean. Why are there so many Bajans in the team? Well, can you point to one of them who should not be there? Can you point to a single one of them in the 11 who is not deserving of being in the team? Can you name an automatic alternative? And it brings us to the Jason Holder question that you posed. He is number one in the rankings. I don't think it bothers him in the least because he's endured so much in the last 5 years when he was thrown in as captain. So whether he's underrated, whether he isn't ranked, whether people are asking silly questions about who is Jermaine Blackwood and tell us a bit more about Shannon Gabriel as if they just fell out of the sky, it just reinforces the point that even if this turns out to be a team of no names and players that are not regarded very well, they could be the team, the first since 1988, to come home with the Wisden Trophy.
One of the most astute journalists I know globally, Fazir Mohammed. Thanks for joining us. Always a pleasure.
Thanks,
we'll talk to you again this week.
Take care.
Fazir Mohammed. And interesting what he said about Jason Holder just now. Yeah, and on our Tuesday show on the SportsMax Zone, we're setting up a live interview with the West Indies coach, Phil Simmons. So look out for that on Tuesday afternoon. Phil Simmons, we're trying to connect for a live interview with him during the show on the SportsMax Zone. Now, as we go to break, remember to catch Alex Jordan on the line with Barbadian broadcast personality and model Leah Marville this evening, 6 p.m., 7 o'clock Eastern Caribbean time on SportsMax and on Scene TV, 8 o'clock, 9 ECT. In the episode, Leah, former Barbados Miss Barbados World, describes her relationship with sports.
Before we started this interview, you said, Alex, I don't know anything about sports, but then you told me a good fact that you knew about the West Indies cricket team. What's it on them now?
Oh, yes. Congratulations. I'm very proud of them, actually, for deciding to, what did they do? Embroider their colors or whatever they did with the Black Lives Matter logo. And so they're going to be playing their test match with the English team. But I definitely love to see that.